You mentioned a stormwater utility. Let's touch on that, if you will.
Well, you know, the city's done a number of things. The deep injection well, we're pumping water out of the main relief canal and selling it for irrigation. That water doesn't go into the lagoon, obviously. We were one of the first with a fertilizer ordinance, and we have as strong a fertilizer ordinance as anybody along the Treasure Coast. I was part of voting for that. You might see my picture at the Oslo boat ramp, you know, because I don't believe in dredging that. But you know, the city is involved in a biomass involvement with 5 other cities, where we're going to take the sludge out of the sewer plant. It will be converted to mulch, first for agricultural use, but eventually for household use. And the city is involved, and the governor's chief of staff was good enough to help us get the Department of Health and Environmental Protection and have them look favorably on our application, which is forthcoming for our STEP system. In other words, the system of taking the effluent, the liquid, out of septic tanks, and it will be north of Bethel Creek, that area of the city, 132 homes.
And that's a test area, right?
Well, it's a pilot project, but we're going to go for permitting the entire city with the idea. And we are going to monitor results, realizing it takes a long time for polluted ground seepage to go through the ground, to get into the river, and, you know, therefore have a reduction. But this year in the budget, one of the things I failed at, and, you know, politics, I'm a middle of the road, I don't think it's any secret. And there's always give and take, and there were a couple things that I lost on. And one was, we're only putting $100,000 into baffle boxes this year. Now that's not quite true, because we're putting $100,000 into fixing problems we have on the 20th Street area with some failure. But essentially, the program we have will take 19 years to move from 32% baffle boxes to 69% baffle boxes. These are the outfalls. And you've got to remember that when all of this part of Florida, and Vero Beach in particular, was laid out, the idea was to get the water off US 1 or Indian River Boulevard, and so all the water goes to the lagoon, and that water carries with it grass clippings, oil from trucks, all manner of mud, leaves, you name it. And at this point in time, we have 66% of the water that's leaving the city. And by the way, we're ahead of the curve, we're ahead of most cities, is going into the river, and anything in the world that's in that water just floats in there. And with technology, we can get out the solids, and with type 2 baffle boxes, we can limit the damage to the lagoon. Now, ideally, if you were building a new community, you'd make lots of lakes and ponds, but we can't do that in Vero Beach. So it's more important to us than, let's say, Grand Harbor, more important that we baffle all of the boxes, all the water coming out. There's one at 19th across from 19th Street across from the power plants, the newest one we put in. And so my idea, it's not my idea, Sebastian and Felsmer have one, is to have a stormwater unit, utility I'll call it, for the period of time it takes to get these outfalls properly baffled and restricted. And after that it would be sunset. And, you know, roughly speaking, if you collected for each sewer hookup $3 to $5, let's say you collected $5, and if we have a month, what would happen is you'd have $60 a year, you'd have $700,000 or $800,000 a year, and my goal would be to get to where we plan to get in 19 years. I mean, 19 years I'm not going to be alive, obviously, but you know, to wait 19 years to fix a lagoon that is dying, to me, is criminal. And it's a fee. It's a user's fee. I think it would be fair, but there's those that call it tax. I mean, you get back to your cliches. I don't want it because it's not small government, or I don't want it because it's a tax. I don't think there's anybody in this community that would have a real problem with a small monthly charge as long as that money had to be used for the benefit of the lagoon. And we're moving forward on that, like the step system. I am proud of our community in many respects. When it came to children buying flavored tobacco, we were one of the first to say we're not going to tolerate that in our city. And I think one of the wonderful things about Vero Beach is we've been willing to change into the modern world with our zoning and everything else, but to keep Vero Beach, Vero Beach. And we have been willing to lead. You know, I go to forums with other cities and they say, well, we look to see what you do. And we come back and think, you're right. And Vero Beach has been a leader, whether it's in the environment, whether it's in zoning, whether it's in governance. I think we have done a very good job this last year of budgeting. The city is in fine financial shape. We have a very, very good management team, and we have a wonderful staff that does a wonderful job. So those are good things. But, you know, there are things that we have to do or should do, like the lagoon. I think it's our most important issue.
The lagoon is the most important issue the city faces.
Well, you know, I mean, somebody came to me the other day and said, well, the city of Vero Beach can't fix the lagoon by itself. And I was with Senator Nelson recently, and it takes all, and he's helping us. And certainly our state senators have helped us. It takes all levels of government. But it takes all levels of government. That doesn't mean that it's like what we're talking about in the world. Somebody has to be willing to be the leader, and people have to be willing to go ahead in defense efforts, as an example. And I will tell you that the grass off this house right here is alive. And it's alive, I think, in large part to the commitment of a place called Vero Beach. And you get north of you get the area between Sebastian and, you know, off Indian River Shores, and the lagoon is in much worse shape than it is here. So, you know, we can't fix the entire lagoon, and indeed there are three problems in the lagoon. What's wrong in Mosquito is very different than what's wrong here. What's wrong here is very different than the outflow, which we're really not affected by coming out of the, you know, down in Stewart and so on. But we can do what we can do, and we can show leadership. And I think we've been willing to do that, and we'll continue to be willing to do that. And but we can't fix it by ourselves, but it can't be fixed without us, if that makes sense.